Hi, my name is Mark Galley. I'm with ThinkReliability based out of Houston, and I'm going to give an overview of the ThinkReliability approach. In the middle of the screen is the word problem. When we investigate an issue, this is obviously the starting point of any incident that we work. That could be a delay in an order, or a manufacturing defect, or an equipment failure, a safety incident, a medication error. It could be a variety of different issues. We start with the problem. The overall cause mapping approach for investigating an issue clearly starts with step 1, defining the problem. Step 2 is a thorough analysis where we break the problem down into parts. And step 3 is solutions, where we identify specific actions we're going to take to prevent the incident from occurring. Now, every incident and every investigation we do happens within the context of some work process. So every organization we work with already has work processes in place. They're already doing some tasks. A process is defined as a series of actions or operations to produce an end. That process or those processes are in place, and they have a problem because something occurred in that process. They didn't get the result that we wanted. So that's even why we have a problem. So even though cause mapping is our investigation methodology, we already know that there's this process or processes in place upstream. The investigation really consists of collecting and organizing all the information related to this issue. So when we define the problem, asking the question, what's the problem, typically leads to a lot of different answers. Whether you talk to 2 or 3 or 4 or more people involved with this issue, people have different points of view about what the problem is. We collect that information quickly with the question, what's the problem? We also ask when the problem happened to get the date and the timing information. We also identify where the problem happened, and then we define every issue within the context of the organization's overall goals. So truly, every incident, every problem is defined by the impact it has to the goals. In fact, an organization can't actually have a problem unless it has impacted one or more of the goals. It's just the definition of what a problem is. It's the cleanest way to start an investigation because people disagree about what the problem is, that first question, but they don't disagree about the impact of the goals. So if someone was injured, or there was some production issue, or some maintenance issue, some delay, everyone answers the question about the goals, the impact of the goals, the same way. So those red boxes are truly the impacts to the goals of the organization. And then the cause map, the analysis step, builds backwards by asking why questions. Now, a lot of people might be familiar with the term 5 whys. The idea of investigating an issue is breaking it down into its cause and effect relationships. So while we may start with 2 goals that were impacted and we begin to ask why questions, as we collect evidence, and evidence substantiates cause and effect relationships, these causes help become more organized with an understanding of the timeline, the sequence of events, any diagrams or photos, the layout or the information related to this issue. So a diagram, for example, might have a layout of that particular area, and there'll also be photographs that are connected to it, or photos that relate to it. As the investigation continues, these causes come together to create a cause map. They start with the goals that were affected. They work backwards through time, which is why the arrows point to the left. You work backwards by asking why questions, and you substantiate these cause and effect relationships with specific evidence. So this is the analysis step. The goals that are impacted, why they were impacted, which are the cause and effect relationships laid out, and then they're substantiated with evidence. And the timeline, which is the sequence of events, the diagrams, photos, this information is all collected from talking with people and collecting data related to this incident. We can then move on to the solution step once the analysis is complete and talk about different ways we could solve the issue. These are possible solutions where we'd want to brainstorm or get ideas on how to solve a problem. And there are a lot of different ways we could solve a problem, but what we're after are the best ways. So some ideas cost too much, some take too long, some are just not reasonable for this specific issue. So we want to identify specifically the best solutions, and those 2 or 3 or 4 best solutions that are selected are then implemented within the context of the work process, meaning every time an organization has action items, it says that they're going to do something differently. If they're doing something differently, then they're somehow modifying, changing, or improving their process. So there's really this perspective of what we were doing before when we had the issue. The problem came up. This is why the problem happened. Here's what we're going to do to prevent the problem from occurring, and here's how it becomes part of our ongoing work process so we actually learn as an organization, not repeat those issues. So there's this before and after view in terms of process anytime you investigate an issue, and that cause map fits in between there. Now, simple perspective on process is a procedure is really a written explanation of the process steps. When we train people in an organization, we're teaching them the steps of the process, and supervision is about ensuring the proper execution of the processes in that organization. So procedure training and supervision are key parts of understanding that process perspective. Now, cause mapping and process mapping are the two tools of the ThinkReliability approach. They really improve the way the group analyzes, documents, communicates, and ultimately solves problems. The whole idea is how to create a learning organization. There's a lot of knowledge on the payroll within organizations, and we don't necessarily communicate as effectively as we could. By understanding both process and specifically the cause and effect relationships validated with evidence, it makes it a much more objective, structured approach, improving the way a group communicates when working through an issue. Because typically a problem involves multiple departments, multiple groups. It's seemingly complex, but the analysis allows you to break it down and make sense how this incident fits together. Now, part of what we teach in the cause mapping methodology is when we say you start with a problem, it means something's already happened. It's fairly reactive in the sense of if you have a problem, anytime you're investigating a problem, it is reactive. The lesson here is the thinking required to conduct a thorough investigation is exactly the mentality or the thinking we want to understand how to prevent issues from ever occurring in the first place. So part of that ThinkReliability approach is understanding how to investigate an incident thoroughly so that we can become much more proactive at preventing issues from occurring. People begin to understand the importance of process and why executing work process effectively is an important part of an organization meeting its goals. Typically, organizations start with us. They've contacted us because they have a specific problem. They're saying, this is something we want to get better at, this is something that isn't going well, so we tend to start with that problem. But part of the ThinkReliability approach is understanding both that reactive, how to investigate the issue, and then becoming much more proactive in understanding how your incident investigation or your problem resolution fits within the overall process view. If you have any questions on this, don't hesitate to call our office. The office number is there on the screen. We'll be happy to go through a demo or an example problem, and there's more information on our website. Thanks very much, and don't hesitate to call if you have questions.